Hi there everybody and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about profiles in BC. So in an earlier video we spoke through the home screen in BC, which is the one that I've got up in front of you right now. And I mentioned in that video about BC being driven, the user interface in BC being driven by the profile or the role that you've been assigned. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up to the top here and show you in the My Settings area that I'm currently assigned a role of Business Manager Evaluation. Now, if I step back to the home screen, as I mentioned on that video, the role that I'm assigned drives the navigation menu options that I have here. So I've got finance, cash management, sales, purchasing, etc. And I've got in my navigation bar customers, vendors, items, bank accounts, and so on. Now, you wouldn't typically do this as an end user, but what I'm going to do just for the purposes of this demo is just change the role that I've been assigned. Now, if I drill down, I can choose a different role, and I'm going to say Manufacturing Manager. So when I press OK, what happens is Business Central will log me out and it will log me back in, and I will have my new user interface because I changed my role to a manufacturing manager. So as you can see, the navigation menu up at the top here now looks totally different. So I've got different options, as does my navigation bar. And so does the lower area, and all of the other areas in BC2 would look slightly different now in terms of the user interface because I'm signed in as a manufacturing manager. Now, just wanted to use that to get across that the user interface in BC is very much role driven, and what I'm going to do is change myself back to the role of Business Manager Evaluation. So I'm going to press OK, and as it did previously, it's going to go in and change my user interface back to what it originally was. So it has to log me out and then back in order for that to happen. And as you can see now, we are back to the navigation menu that we started with and the navigation bar that we started with at the beginning of the video. Now, in order to define the profile by user, what I'm going to do is just show you a page by going to the search function here. I'm going to search for a page here called User Settings. Now, once I open this page, I basically have a list of the BC users in this environment. Now, bear in mind, this is a cloud demo environment, so none of these are actual users, they're just demonstration users. But on the user settings screen, I've got myself, so I'm logged in as the admin user, and we can see that I have a role of Business Manager Evaluation. So there are also some other settings on this screen. I can change my language and my regional settings and my default company as well, but we're focusing on roles today. And just want to show you that I can drill into the user ID here, and if I want to, I can change the role per user from this area here. So one of the other things that you can do within profiles in BC is you can customize and you can personalize. So there's a key difference here between these two particular actions. Now, if I talk through personalizing first, just want to show you on screen what that would look like. But before we can do that, what we're going to do is talk through the different types of pages that we have in Business Central. So it makes sense to do that before we start personalizing and customizing those pages. So the first type of page is the one that we have up on screen right now, and it's the home screen. So it's the role center screen. The other types of pages that we have in BC, well, if I click my customers shortcut here, what that will do is it will take me through to my customers list. So I'm now on the customers list, I can tell by the name that I've just highlighted on the top left there, And this is a list view page in BC. So if we break this down, we still have the company name on the top left here. I've still got my navigation menu up at the top here as well, so I can drill into other pages from here if I wanted to. I've still got my action bar, but the actions bar has changed to suit the page that I'm currently on. So we're on the customers page right now, and therefore the actions bar has actions related to that particular page. So if I say new document here, for example, I can raise a new sales quote, order, invoice for the customer record that I have highlighted at that point in time. So just wanted to get across that the actions bar remains, but the context of that changes based on the page that I'm currently logged into. So coming down here, we've got the list area of the page, and this is basically just the list of customers that I have on my environment. And on the right hand side here, I've got what we call the fact box area. So this just shows me facts or information, data related to the record that I'm currently highlighting. So you can see I've got customer number 10,000. BC tells me lots of useful information, like the ongoing sales orders are 2, posted sales invoices are 33, and of course I can drill down into each one of these if I want to, and I can scroll down to see more information there too. So if I change my record, you'll notice that the customer number also changes, and all of the tiles here also change. So I've now got 51 posted sales invoices against customer number 20,000. Now, the other type of page that we have in Business Central is if I go into one of my customers. So I'm just going to click into this customer 10,000 record, and it brings up what we call the customer card. So this is the final type of page that we have in Business Central, and you'll see that we have more information available to us on this page. So it tells us the record that we're logged into. I've got my actions bar here, again contextual based upon the page that I'm logged into, and then I have what we call fast tabs here. So I'm just breaking these down or collapsing them, and I'll read through. I've got the general fast tab, I've got the address and contact fast tab, invoicing, payments, shipping, and etc. And I can, as you saw earlier, I can collapse and expand these by just clicking on the title of the fast tab there. And all these fast tabs is just relevant bits of information grouped into a fast tab. So the general information contains things like the customer number, customer name. Address and contact has the address details, email, homepage, and so on. So it's just a grouping of relevant bits of information. Now you'll notice on the right hand side here, I still have my fact box area. So I've got the customer picture fact box, sell to customer sales history, customer statistics, and a few others there. And as always, I can drill down into this information if I want to. So now that we're familiar with some of the types of pages that we have in Business Central, let me step back to my home screen so I can just click the Cronus UK Limited button here, or I can hit escape on my keyboard, and that takes me back to my home page. Now, what I want to start doing is I want to start personalizing this particular page. So I mentioned earlier the idea of personalizing versus customizing. Now, when you personalize, you only make changes to your own login or the user that you're logged in with at that point in time. However, when you're customizing, you are making changes at profile level. So I'll run through both of those, but what we'll focus on first is personalizing. So in order to personalize my profile, what I'm going to do is just click the settings cog up on the top right here, and I'm going to click personalize. And you'll notice what this does is it brings up a new section to our page here, and it tells us we are personalizing Business Manager. So that's just the profile that I've been assigned. I've got a few other options on this bar that appears. I've got the option to clear personalization, which notice I can't click that right now. So I have the option to say clear personalization, but if I click that, it doesn't actually give me anything yet. And that's because I haven't actually personalized anything just yet. So two other buttons here, I can press done to say stop personalizing as the tool tip suggests there, or I can say less to hide this particular bar. So now, when I'm personalizing, what you'll notice is if I hover over my navigation menu, my navigation bar, I've got this little red triangle which appears. Okay, and what I can do is I can click this red triangle, and this will allow me to either move or hide or open that particular shortcut. Okay, so if I want to move, what I need to do is go to the relevant action that I want to move. So I can go to customers, for example. I'm going to click and I'm going to hold my click on the red triangle, and I'm going to drag customers over to the other side of chart of accounts. You see the little red separator appearing there, just telling me where I want to drop that particular shortcut. So if I let go here, what BC will do is it will have moved customers from the very left of my navigation bar to the right of my navigation bar here. And equally, if I want to, I can also choose to hide the customer's shortcut as well. Okay, so if I press hide, what happens is you can see customers is sort of grayed out there now. And this basically means that when I press done, or when I stop personalizing, I won't be able to see the customer's shortcut anymore. So the same rules apply for pretty much everything that we see here, right? So if I go to my actions and my sales quote action, I can say hide, I can say move. And equally, if I go into finance, I can move or I can hide my general journals. You get the idea. I can do that with anything. And this also applies particularly on the home screen to whole areas like this. So you see I'm now hovering over the activities area here. I can choose to either move or hide a whole area, or within each area I can move or remove sub areas too. Okay, so this basically means that we can change the home screen to be whatever we want it to be. And you'll notice there are some areas down here that are sort of greyed out. They've got the diagonal lines going across them. And the reason why is you can see the text here on the red box that appears. It says this part is currently hidden. Now what I can do is I can go in and I can say show. And what that will do is it will make that area visible when we stop personalizing. So I'm going to say show. I'm going to say show. I'm going to say show. And obviously you've got to be careful here because you don't want to show unnecessary information. So you only want to show those bits of functionality or those areas that you know you're going to use. Otherwise you'll have a very noisy screen. You can see there's loads of areas here which I'm not going to show all of them. So let's just jump through to some of our other pages now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my vendors, and I can either say open here because I want to go through to the list view, or as the shortcut suggested there, I can hold Control and click at the same time. Now because we're still in personalizing mode here, we can still make changes, right? So you can see the columns on my list view here. I can say, right, the location code, perhaps we don't need that functionality, so I can say remove. The phone number, I can say it's not relevant to me on the list view, so I can say remove. I can say the contact needs to be to the left here, so I want to move that before the vendor name. And equally, guys, if I want to, I can press the plus field option here. And what this will do is on the right hand side, it will show me all of the fields that I can add in to the vendor page that I'm currently on. And in order to add a field, all I need to do is, for example, take this currency code, I'm going to drag it over and I'm going to identify where I want to place the currency code field based on where the red marker appears in between columns. So just here, it's in between the name column and the search name. I'm just going to let go of my mouse there and drop the currency code field in there. And I can do the same with any other field here, right? So I can just add in a few fields here just to show you. And equally, if I go in and say remove, that field will then appear in the right hand side here again for me to add in if I want to. So you may have noticed this long red line here. Now what this is it's a freeze pane, right? So if you notice as I scroll here, the data is moving across, but everything left of the freeze pane remains. And if I want to, I can set the freeze pane based on any column that I want to. So if I hit set freeze pane next to contact here, you will notice to the left of the freeze pane we now have number and contact. If I scroll across, the number and contact remain where they are, whereas the other fields scroll across. So I could go on further about this, guys, but I just want to show you that you can move and hide and open the action bar here as well, right? And the same applies for the fact boxes here as well. So at individual level, you can move or remove fields within the fact boxes themselves if you wanted to as well. So you can totally customize this to be the way that you want to. And furthermore, if you go into the vendor card, it's the same there, right? So we might say, for example, we're not using the intercompany module within Business Central, so we can say we want to remove the IC partner code. We don't really use the purchaser code, we can remove the purchaser code. Or equally, if we want to, we can move a field across as well if we want to. So I can drag and I can hold the responsibility center and I can move that up and across if I need to there as well. And of course, I can change all of the actions that we have here by moving, hiding if I want to as well. Now, one of the final things on this section, what I want to show you is a document because it just opens us up to a few other different areas when we're personalizing. So what I've done is I'm just going to raise a new purchase order for vendor 10,000. So be careful, you are still operating in a BC environment and you can still use BC as you normally would when you're in personalizing mode as opposed to when you're not in personalizing mode. So it's exactly the same. So now on the purchase order page, you can still use the same rules. But what I wanted to show you here is in the general tab of my purchase order, I've got this show more and show less option, right? So where I say show less, so I'm going to click show less, as you can see, it hides a lot of the fields in the general tab. If I press show more, it shows a lot more fields, right? And this could be used to show only those fields which are most relevant to us. But if we want to drill down and see a bit more information, we can then choose to do that if we want to by saying show more and show less. So I'm just going to hit show less right now, and what I'll show you is I've got this bunch of fields in there right now, but if I say show more, what I can do is I can go into purchaser code, for example, and I can say show always. Now what that will do is if I click the red triangle again there, it says show under show more. It's because I've just changed the option, right? So if I say show less now, you will see that I've got purchaser code available there to me. Now if I say show under show more, what I would need to do is click show more here to enable me to see that particular field. So the one other thing there is show when collapsed. And as we ran through earlier, collapsing a fast tab here basically means that we still see some information there if we need to. So currently it looks like we have the vendor name and we have the status of the PO based on the tooltips there. But if I want to, I can say that I want to show the contact when collapsed as well. So if I say show when collapsed under the contact field, when I then go in and collapse that information, that tab, you can see Crystal York is now available to us when it's collapsed as well. Okay, so just one more thing that I want to cover off here. In the purchase lines section, what you can do is, you can enable quick entry or disable quick entry on a field. So what is this? Well, it's basically when we're moving across the lines on our purchase order, if a field is included from quick entry, when we press enter, the functionality will jump to that field. Now the idea of this is it basically just makes it easier to input documents, right? So if you're inputting a purchase order, you don't want to have to scroll all the way across these fields. If you just press enter and include or exclude from quick entry the appropriate fields, it will speed up the input time. Of course, this is if you're inputting your documents manually. So just to show you, what I'm going to say is exclude from quick entry, exclude from quick entry, and I'm going to say include in quick entry on my item reference number field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my type is item, and now if I press enter on my keyboard, you'll notice that the cursor jumps directly to the item reference number field. Why? Because this is not excluded, it's included from quick entry. Okay, so this is really important. It only works if you press enter. If I press tab, I still move across all of the fields like I am now. Okay, but if I go back to the type and press enter, it jumps to the item reference number field. And that's because that field is included in quick entry. So you can literally go down to that level of detail when you're inputting your personalization to say, I want to jump to this field when I press enter on this particular page within BC. Okay, so we've been through a few elements there of personalizing, and what I'm going to do now is on my home page, I'm going to press done. Okay, so that takes us out of personalization mode, and you can see now I've got my vendors, items, bank accounts, chart of accounts, but customers is no longer visible. And earlier we added a whole load of additional information, so user tasks, email status, approvals, and so on, onto the home screen. And just want to show you that all that information has saved in my personalization. So this is just against my user. And just to prove that point, what I'm going to do is just show you that I have another user set up who is Alan S, who is also a business manager evaluation. So his role is also business manager evaluation, same as mine, the admin user. And if I open the other window that I've got here, and just show you up at the top here, that I'm logged in as Alan S here. And what I'm going to do is just refresh this window just to show you that when that loads back up, Alan does not have any of the changes that we've made in my other profile. So we can still see customers here, and if I scroll down, you can see we don't have user tasks and emails and that other bit of information that we added in. And the reason for that is because when we were personalizing mod administrators or the admin users profile, that was happening in personalized mode. Okay, so if I want to, I can go into personalized mode and I can now say clear personalization. So bear in mind, the clear personalization gives me a few different options. So I can say I only want to clear personalization in my navigation menu in this area, in my actions, field, columns and parts, or all. Okay, so I can choose which area I want to clear the personalization for, or if I say all, that will clear for all of it. And the same applies to the other pages that I'm on here. So we made some changes on vendor table, and you can see I've got the same options available to me here. So if I was to say all here, just notice it gives me a bit of a warning, says I can't undo this, I'm going to agree. And what it will do is set the vendors page and the vendor page only back to the default settings. So you can see the freeze pane has moved and the fields have changed back to what they were. But if I go back to my home page, nothing has changed there. And you can see I can still access the clear personalization. Whereas if I go back to my vendors, because I cleared personalization, I now don't have the ability to click that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say done on this, but before I do that, I'm just going to restore the home page just because of the next stage of this. So I'm going to say done, and that is personalizing a page in Business Central. Okay, so I personalize that profile, and that personalization occurs at user level. So only the user who does the personalization can see those changes. So the second part is customization. So if I come into my profiles here, what I can do is I can choose to customize pages within a profile. So I can highlight the Business Manager Evaluation profile here, and I can say customize. But equally, I can copy a profile, and it's normally good practice to do this. So I'm just going to copy the Business Manager profile here and show you what that does. I'm going to say profile ID test, display name test for demo. Okay. And so it looks like I've got an error there. I'm not too sure why. Let's just copy another one for now. Okay, there we go. So it's copied and it's created my new profile. And what I would typically do is assign my users the new profile and run through customization. But just for this demo, what I'm going to do is on my Business Manager Evaluation, I'm going to highlight this particular profile and I'm going to say customize pages. Now, what this does is it opens a new tab in my browser, and this tab is now the customizing tab. So you can see here it says customizing, whereas previously it said personalizing. And In terms of functionality, it's exactly the same. So I can move, I can hide, I can open. I can do exactly the same as what I just did on the personalizing setting. However, when I'm making changes in customization mode, all users who have the Business Manager evaluation profile will experience these changes. Okay, so let's just say, for example, we want to get rid of all of the shortcuts here apart from customers. So I'm going to say hide on every shortcut there apart from customers. And now if I say done, I get a message that says customization completed successfully. Your customizations to the Business Manager evaluation profile are saved, and you can now close the browser tab. So I'm going to close the tab here, and what I'm going to do is just come back to my home screen, and I am going to refresh my browser here. So I'm going to refresh the browser just so it catches the updates, and here you can see I'm logged in as mod administrator or the admin user, and I can now on my home screen only see customers. Okay, and let me switch back to our other user. So this is the window where I'm logged in as Alan S. And again, I have to refresh because the changes don't take effect until you log out and back in. So I'm going to go refresh. And remember, Alan had the same profile as the admin user. He was also a Business Manager evaluation. And you can see now that Alan also only sees customers on his home screen in terms of the shortcuts. So the difference there between customization and personalization: personalization only affects the user who's doing the personalizing. Customization affects all users who have that profile. And it is best practice when you're doing this to go ahead and copy the out of the box profile and create a new version of a page of one of those role centers, as we did here with the test for demo, and you can make your customization changes within that particular profile. And of course, this is just a test environment, it's a demo environment, but you can import and export profiles using these functions. All it does is it gives you a zip file, as you can see up at the top here, and you can import that back into another environment. So obviously we'll always do this in Sandbox first, and we can promote to higher environments and eventually production when we're ready after we've tested. So that's everything I wanted to talk through with regards to profiles. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you guys on the next one.